Hello, everybody. This is Debbie from Teacher Success Coach with another episode of the Female Educators Roundtable. But as usual on Friday, we have homeschooling, home educating. It depends on which country you're from, because different countries say either homeschooling or home educating, but it means the same thing. It's just a, terminology difference. So today we'll be talking to a homeschooler who's been doing it for a number of years. And she'll be sharing her journey with us, tell us some of the ups and downs, the reason why she did it, the joy of doing it, etc. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so very much, Jennifer, for accepting the offer to come to share your journey with us. I am super grateful for that because, you're actually giving your time to me to discuss your journey, and I'm really grateful. So thank you very much for that. So tell us where you come from and tell us a little bit about your background, why you think that you could educate your children for yourself. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Well, hi, and thank you so much for having me. I was so excited to get the invitation. And then when you told me that you were in London, my mind was just blown. You don't realize how much of you're in your own world until someone outside of that kind of opens your mind up. But my name is Jennifer Duckworth, and I am originally from Tennessee, the South in North America. Well, yes. And then I live currently in Birmingham, Alabama. I have 3 kids, and I've been married for almost 15 years. And we decided to homeschool our children when it was time for my oldest, he is 12 now, to go to kindergarten. And honestly, my story is, I think, unique, but I'm not sure. When I was in high school, I was in a leadership program, and there were 2 or 3 homeschool children that were a part of it. And I went to a private school, but I was around a lot of traditional public school students. So when I encountered these homeschool students, I was just overwhelmed with questions and thoughts, because I had never heard of that before. My mother was a teacher for 35 years, and everybody in the Black community in the South in particular, they're all teachers. And so when they told me that, I just kind of observed them. I wasn't like a stalker, but I just observed them wow, I noticed that they had their own thoughts. I noticed that they were very kind and well-mannered and just very individual people that just wanted to be true leaders. They weren't the fake leaders, how your mom tells you, okay, you got to do this, but you really don't know why. They were there with their own reasons, right? And that really impressed me. But when I went home and I asked my mother about, homeschooling, this was in the 90s and early 2000s, she was like, no. Okay, the homeschoolers are weird. They lack social cues, no, that is not a possibility. And so I just kind of put it in the back of my mind. But then imagine my surprise when it came time for my son to go to school. And my husband has said some of the same things. No, we're not homeschooling. It's weird. They're all weird. It's really came down to the social aspect. That was the trigger for everyone that I talked to about it. And then what happened was, when my son was about to go into kindergarten, it was also the times when all of the bombings were happening of the children, here in America. I don't know, and I don't really want to get into the political side of it, but there were a lot of shootings in the schools. And so it was a lot of trauma. So you would take your child to school one day, and then unfortunately, they may not be coming home because there was a lot of gun issues and things of that nature. And so my husband was feeling unsafe in that area, as well as some of the people in our community were saying, if you could keep your son, who was a young Black little boy, at home and help him to develop his foundation a little bit more until at least third grade, you are putting him at an advantage, because we were told that and we had also seen our friends go through the same thing, that there's a lot of microaggressions that happen for little young Black boys. You know, the teacher may not know how to deal with an active child or a overconfident child, or, you know, just any of those things that's uncomfortable for them. They tend to put them in a box. And then next thing you know, your child is coming home and they're not acting like the same child that you sent to school emotionally. And so we were privileged enough, and it wasn't without sacrifice, to keep him home. And we've just been taking it 1 year at a time ever since. For now, it's been 8 years, and I have 2 daughters. My first daughter, she is 9, and my second daughter is 7. And so we have been homeschooling them the whole time. And so eventually, and tell me if you want me to stop, I can. And
no, that's fine. Share the journey. That's fine. Okay. No problem.
Okay. Eventually, so we had started out, I just, you know, I was surprised that my husband said that he wanted to homeschool. I just really was. But he after much prayer and much advice and counsel from our community, we took that leap, and I was just grabbing at whatever I could, because I'm like, I don't know what to do, but let's just get started. And we were part of a co-op at first, and I will say that definitely helped me get started. It helped me be around ladies that had been in homeschooling for a while, or they were second and third generation homeschoolers. So it was, and they were not Black or brown. These were, as I like to say, peach brothers and sisters that they had been in homeschooling. So to them, it was second nature. And I was able to gather information from them for at least the first 2 years of our homeschooling journey. But what happened was, for me, and I know this to be true for a lot of other Black and brown homeschool families, that we were not entirely accepted and embraced. And primarily because the communities that have been created were not really for a Black and brown family in mind, or a Hispanic family in mind, or an Asian family in mind. It was really for the majority, because they were started by the majority, you know, our rosy cheek brothers and sisters, if you will. I like this. Yeah. And so, and I'm not saying that it was bad. What I'm saying is that for my story, I realized, and I'm a believer in God. And so I believe that God was really telling us, my family, that we needed to get out of that environment and create something that was more for us. You know, and that's why I had met my co-founder of Black Homeschoolers of Birmingham. We created Black Homeschoolers of Birmingham, where it's a safe space for Black and brown homeschoolers to learn and play and grow. And our community, I'm actually getting ready for our 3rd annual conference, but our community went from the 2 of us and 7 other families to now we have over 300 plus families in our area of Birmingham alone of Black and brown homeschool children.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, the premise is basically what I needed to create that community, where it had you know, where we could talk about, hey, it's time for our children to get their hair braided, or we could talk about, hey, we need music classes, or we could talk about, hey, we want to do swim classes for our students, because, you know, Black and brown students are more likely to drown in our community because we don't have, you know, swim classes or, you know, or swimming lessons here. So just we wanted to create, or when we go on our field trips, you know, I had taken my kids on field trips, but it was really from the perspective of the majority, as opposed to the perspective of a Black and brown family who lived in, you know, those times. So we went, so we can go to the Capitol and we'll have a tour where a Black person will give us the tour. And so instead of going this pathway for the tour, she'll take us this pathway, which is reflective of our history, you know. And so I homeschool not for the regular reasons. I homeschooled because, you know, my husband and I prayerfully went into it as a way to prepare our children to be their best selves, and to honestly do their best wherever they go. And so if they decide to go into the traditional school system because that's what's best for them at this time, then they're not so easily persuaded to give in to the norms of society, if that makes sense. And my oldest, he's definitely looking at going back into the traditional school system, but at the same time, I feel like every time we go that way, something comes up in our homeschool community that keeps him satisfied with the social aspect and his interests, where he's not as easily ready to go to the traditional school system. So that's my story. My husband and I were working really hard to, you know, build the foundations that they need, and having our community helps us. And then, you know, just being diligent and intentional really helps us to stay on this journey without going crazy. So
Thank you for that. So
yes,
you have set up a project. Is it a project or business? What is it?
the Black Homeschoolers of Birmingham, or my personal business?
Okay. So what do you do? What do you provide for homeschoolers?
Okay, so the homeschool, so I'm a jack of all trades. So for the community is we provide an umbrella organization where if you're just starting homeschool, and particular and you have Black and brown homeschool children, you could come to our community and get enrichment classes. You can be a part of the community field trips. We have Mom's Night Out. We basically are trying to build a community of homeschoolers. Does that make sense?
Yes. That makes sense. Okay.
But then also I have a business where I actually tutor kids, and I offer debate classes and homeschool consultation. So it all kind of, I have the entrepreneur side, the community side, and the family side.
All right. Okay. All right, because I heard you say earlier on that you employ tutors.
Yes.
Okay. So how does that work?
Well, that was and I'll be quick, but that was a funny story because it all connects. Like, I was homeschooling my children, and then my neighbor saw, and she asked me if I could help her child. And so I said, sure. And I ended up tutoring her because she was about to fail kindergarten. I mean, here in the South, I guess that's a thing. I don't know how it is over in Europe, but I was shocked. So I just helped her as much as I can. And then at the end of the school year, she graduated as most improved from kindergarten. And I just kept going and helping as many people as I can. And so now, just this summer, we are finishing up our summer classes where I had 10 students and 2 teachers that work with me. Well, actually 3 that work with me. And we teach math, reading, and writing K through 5.
Hey, okay. All right. So thank you for that. So actually, that actually stemmed from you supporting your child and someone. Wow, that's fantastic.
Yes. It all comes together, and I'm just
He's
amazed.
demonstrating, look, yeah. Thank you. What are the benefits of homeschooling over mainstream education? Because
Oh,
you've attended mainstream education, but your children haven't, right?
yes. So I can answer this easily. I feel like the advantage that homeschool education gives to children is that they are able to focus on their actual dreams and interests a little bit earlier than they may be in a traditional school setting. Because so I have 3 children, and so each one of them have their own particular set of interests. And because we homeschool, I can set up their curriculum that is in line with their interests. So my son, he likes engineering and he likes to draw and he's an inventor. And so since he was 6, we've been kind of lining up his curriculum to where it is setting him on a path where he can be in coding classes and art classes and engineering focused classes, and they all go towards his interest. So by the time that he graduates from high school, he will have his own business and his own path set up for him, and he won't have to wait until he gets in college to figure out who he is or what he wants to do. And my first daughter, she loves cooking, and she also loves to use herbs to heal people. So we've set her curriculum on that pathway. And my youngest daughter, she loves to dance, same for her. And all the while we're putting in math and reading and writing and history and all of that. It's webbed and woven into their school lesson, but they get to learn about their particular interests, and through the history. Like, with my daughter and her learning how to dance, I'll make sure that we'll go over the history of a Raven Wilkerson and a Misty Copeland, so she can see how Black and brown people have contributed to her being able to dance in this time. And the same for my daughter. So we have a chance to really focus in on their schooling and really help them to be intentional about how they want to live their life. Traditional schools, I think it takes a little bit longer unless you're in a smaller setting. Like, we have charter schools, we have private schools, and you may get that as well, but it takes a little bit longer because unfortunately the teachers have more children at one time. So they're not, and then they have certain criteria that they have to follow. So it's not as easy to specialize in each child's life like you would be able to in homeschool.
Oh my goodness, you've answered, there's several questions in that you've answered. That's brilliant because it is so very true. Because that's one of the plus for me in terms of homeschooling. As I keep saying to people, we have 20, 29, but I'm fortunate because I teach the older children. I teach 6 from 14 to 17-year-old. So therefore my classes are smaller because I teach specialized subjects, whereas I know lower down the school, my colleague have 30 children, you can't focus on the 30 children because their all interests are so very different. Yes, which is so very, very true. Wow. Yeah. Thank you. Yes. And how do you know that you are good at teaching them what they need to know?
Okay, so that's always a question when you start homeschooling your child, and really it comes down to my friend is from Nigeria, and she explained this to me. She explained to me that when she speaks her native tongue to her child, he understands it and he responds to it because she's been speaking her native language to him since he was, before he was born. So it's kind of like a comfort to him. And so I say that to say it really taught me that when you're homeschooling your child, you know what's best for your child because it's your child. You know, I can tell when my son is interested in something, or I can tell when my son is like upset or whatever, and we have to stop and have a conversation about certain things. You are, what I've learned and what we like to tell our community is, you are the best teacher for your children because they are yours and they were given to you, and you know them better than anyone. I think that's one of the things that we have to think about when we go into that school and we're shaking our hands and we're, you know, telling the people, you know, you should have. It's because we know in our hearts what's best for our children, and we're expecting them to do that. But then the frustration comes where we know that that system is not really set up to specialize that one child. It's fine, but that's how you know that you are equipped to teach your child, because you have every idea of what that child should have.
Thank you. That is so very true, because I'm constantly saying to parents that they are the child first teacher and they are the child real teacher, because they know the child more than we do, because they send the child to us and we guessing. You know, it's a
Yes.
guessing game we play, because we really don't know the child. Although the child will spend 7 hours with us, we really still don't know the child. We only know the child on a superficial basis.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
know,
Yes,
whereas
ma'am.
you know your child real, because that child come from within you, and you know what really connects your child with certain things.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
you know, so it's very, very true. What are some of the thank you for that. What are some of the triumphs?
Okay, can you say that again? It was
Yeah.
breaking apart.
Yeah. What are some of the triumphs of homeschooling, the excitement of homeschooling? What's some of the, you know?
I think the biggest thing that is exciting for me is watching them get it. You know, when my son or when my daughter, when they finally learn to read and they start reading those pages and they start finishing those books and they start really just becoming their own, that's exciting to me because I know that I was part of that process. And that's one of the things that my teachers, when they are, you know, tutoring the kids, they get excited about how the lights come on and you get to see those lights come on. I think the other thing that's really exciting is when you are able to see your children overcome things. And it doesn't have to necessarily be like they understand math now. It could be they understand how to have a conversation with their friends when it's a difficult conversation. And you're there to kind of walk them through that process. But then I'm kind of at the stage now where I'm learning how to let go, since my son is 12. And we're at a position where he has a lot of the things that we've taught him over these past 12 years. And now I get to see him use those things for himself in the way that he wants to. And I'm actually there. I have the privilege. I realize this is a privilege. I know that not everyone has this opportunity. Hopefully that'll change. But I get the privilege of watching them grow in every area of their life. And I think that's the triumph.
Yeah, I hear that, because as a teacher, when you're teaching the student and finally they get it, it's like the light bulb moment, the aha moment, the excitement, thinking, oh my goodness, fantastic, brilliant, you know, the excitement, because, you know, you are thinking, oh my goodness, they didn't get it. And, you know, and it's like, well, when they get it, oh my goodness, it is definitely a triumph. I share that. I
Yes.
really do.
Yes.
Thank you. What are some of the challenges of homeschooling?
I think the biggest challenge for me as a homeschool mom is the separation, where I have to be a homeschool mom, but then I also have to be mom. So I have to be a teacher, and then I also have to be mom. And separating mentally, like if they don't get it, then that does not mean, okay, that's okay, we'll try again. No, it means the teacher part of me has to say, no, go back and do it and we're going to keep working on it until we get it, you know. And then but the mom part of me is like, I know it, I know you can do it, you know. It's almost like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. You know, you're trying to balance both of those. And then the other challenge is not comparing yourself. So I'm in it a lot more, so I don't really deal with this. But when you're first starting homeschool, you're always second guessing yourself to see, is my child where they need to be? You know, are they on the same level as the traditional school child? And the honest truth is, no, they're not. They're further ahead because you are taking time to put all of your time into them. So when they're asking you questions, you can answer those questions, you can invest in them. And I'm not saying that the traditional child is less than, I'm saying that the standards are different. When my child needs this, I can immediately address it. But in the other traditional way, there's a delay there, you know. And so it's really hard not to compare yourself because we're so used to the traditional standards. And it's not until they get into other situations with other students that you realize how much further ahead than they really are.
That is so very true, though. That's very, very true. Because in terms of the ability to act, you know, to articulate conversation, because another thing we need to bear in mind, they do not only communicate with children their own age group as they would in the traditional school, because we know, you know, all the year, you know, the 14-year-olds are together, but that's not reality. That's not life. Because in life, you know, the children at 14, they don't all meet together. They have conversation with adults. Yes. So we're not preparing them for that aspect of the real life in terms of communicating with adults. Whereas homeschool, you guys, you know, expose them to that.
Yes. And that was another question that I had. You know, my children and a lot of the homeschool students that we are around in our community, like you said, we're talking to grown adults. My 7-year-old, she walked into a health food store, and she looked at the owner. We do know the owner, but she looked at the owner and she said, "Excuse me, ma'am." This is my 7-year-old. "Excuse me, ma'am, I would like to know if you have any products that deal with digestion or with neck pain. You know, I've been dealing with that for a couple of weeks and I'd like to see if there's something that we could do about it." This is a 7-year-old talking to a grown adult, and thankfully the adult was so giving and so patient, and she walked her around the store to show her the different things, while my 10-year-old was in the same position, and she was going into rooms and talking about how she can't wait to have these people come to her mothers and daughters cooking club. And you know, it's a difference because, like you said, we expose them more to adults and the community that surrounds them, and we teach them how to communicate instead of taking them away from that position. So
that's so very, very true. That is so very true, because it is so important that they're exposed to all of that, because in real life, that's what happened. Yes. Sorry, in real life, they don't only talk to, you know, the 7-year-olds, they talk to everybody. So that's, you know, I see that as one of the triumph, actually.
Yes.
You know, yes, in terms of that. Yeah. Thank you. One of the all age everybody keep on talking about is the children's ability to socialize. And yes, I'm sure you probably get a lot of that. Oh, but you know, they're not able to socialize, and how are you going to make sure that they're able to socialize? They might be defective in that area, etc. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, as I've been talking throughout our whole you know, chat here, is that, yes, that is possible, that that could happen. And honestly, I do have some homeschool friends that their children are not social. And the reason is that you have to, and I tell everyone that I consult with, you have to make social engagements a part of your curriculum. So if you are a introvert, someone that's within, you've actually got to come out of your shell, and you've got to plan when you go to places, which is why our community is so great, because we have on the calendar play dates and field trips and enrichment classes. So it kind of forces the parent to see, oh, there is a place for me to go. But when I was first starting out, I was told at least once a month, you've got to plan to go somewhere. So we would spend a lot of our time at the library. We would spend a lot of our time at the local science museums. And then we would start to ask people that we met along the way, hey, do you want to meet back up again? So that we could actually develop that social interaction. Because if you don't, your children will be socially inept. And it has to be intentional. And that was one thing. Yes, I'm very extroverted, but I always tell people I like to be at home a lot. You know, if I could be at home and sitting and watching TV all day, I would do that. But I have 3 kids that need social interaction. So I have to get out of my comfort zone, and I have to make it happen, because they don't have it naturally embedded in a homeschool situation. And because I've made that a point, my husband and I have made that a point to do, our children are not socially inept. And honestly, I see when we go to other places where we encountered different types of school children, whether it's private, whether it's public, whether it's whatever, I do see that more with them than I do with homeschool, because the idea is, oh, they're naturally going to get it. But that's not always the case, especially if you have a quiet child that is not really forced to get along with people. And I'm not saying you have to force people. I'm just saying that a lot of times, if you're not intentionally teaching your child to communicate with people, it doesn't matter what school system or what education system you're using, you're going to have a kid that is socially behind. So I don't think it really has to do with homeschool. I think it has to do with the parent and how much they involve themselves in helping the child overcome being socially active.
I totally agree with you there, because I think when they get to the traditional school setting, they think, oh, don't worry, automatic is going to happen. But when they realize the child is not able to socialize, then they think, oh my goodness, what's going on with my child? But have you actually supported the child in doing that? Or have you just left it up to the school and think it's going to happen automatically? That's so very true. You know, as you said, that it's like I'm visualizing all these images of some of these children that, you know, it's like they're not socializing because they don't know how to, because the parents have not taught them to. Yes. And they expect them to actually happen automatically. We expect us to fill in the gap, and it's not always possible because we have so many gaps to fill. It is very, very true. Very, very true. Thank you for that. Do you think that homeschooling is as effective as traditional education in the teaching the children the necessary skills needed to navigate the world at large?
I believe so. I believe so, because like I said, homeschool is what it is. Home school, schooling at home. And honestly, if you had a camera and you watched our lifestyle as homeschoolers, you would be amazed at the fact that we're barely at home. Like, we are at the library, or we're at the science center, or we're at church, or we're at you know, some kind of field trip or different event. And then I'm just praying that sometime in the week I'll be home enough to stop and actually go through the regular curriculum that I have set up. But the beauty of it is that they are learning from their world around them. And that's why when COVID happened, I believe it hurt homeschoolers more than anything, because we relied on, I know we did, we relied on a lot of the outside community activities as part of our curriculum. And so when we didn't have that, we had to make that adjustment and really just, because it only takes us about 2 or 3 hours to get our schoolwork done. If that, like sometimes my kids will be done with their math, their reading, their writing in like an hour, and then what do you do with the rest of the day? Because the basic stuff is done, the rest of the schooling and learning comes from other people. I'm going to show them this chat. They're going to learn from you. I'm going to tell them, guess where I was talking, and she's from London. Let's go on the map and let's look at that on the map. Like, it's all interactive learning. Go fix your food, your dinner. Okay, let's learn about how to cook this. This is homeschooling. And so I feel like, and no, not everybody's perfect. I'm not perfect. Sometimes I'm just like, okay, let's go to McDonald's. That's our dinner for today or whatever. But it is intentional. So I really want to intentionally help them learn about the world around them.
That's so beautiful, because that's something people need to realize and remember, especially people in the traditional education, that schooling is not about the building. Education takes place anywhere. And it is so important that education takes place outside of the building, because it means that the children are able to see the connection, other than seeing it in a very programmed fashion. Because life is not programmed. So it's fantastic you're actually doing the reminder that, it takes place anyway. And the more we actually connect to real life, the more the children are going to enjoy learning.
Yes. Yeah. And I will say that I believe that traditional schools are changing. I believe that
Really?
Well, yeah, I've seen that. Okay, so COVID forced them to offer virtual schooling, because they realized that children just do better at home, and the hope is that we are all able to work together. So the vision really is, in my opinion, that if you have a student that comes and you realize this traditional style of schooling is not working for them, then somehow there is a connection to a homeschool network or a private school network or some other kind of one-on-one individual tutoring network where you can actually say, okay, this is not working for you, but we don't want to like put you in a box and, say that you are, special needs or whatever because it's not working for you. We want to offer you the opportunity to go check out this homeschool network and see if they can help you, see if that's a better fit for you. And we're all working together as an educational community as opposed to working against each other. Like, that's what I feel like we need to be, because COVID taught us that every child learns differently. And, we have to face that reality,
Yeah, thank you for that. That is so very true, because this traditional system failing to really celebrate differences. And it's important that we celebrate differences, because not every child learns through, you're writing on the board. That's the least the way children learn. Children need to be interactive, because that's what the brain is. The brain becomes active when it sees things that are unusual and exciting things. And yes, the COVID have taught us, to step outside the box, but unfortunately, it's business as usual. Because people have gone back to the traditional way of doing things. We didn't stay too long using the online platform, because I've just finished school and they don't do anything on the online platform. They don't upload the lessons, none of that. I'm told that I have to email it to the students. Email takes long. And if I have PowerPoints, I'm not able to email all this PowerPoint. So as a result of that, I said to the student, okay, I'll just print it out for you. But it's better if they had the interactive PowerPoint. But it takes long. I have to chop it up because the PowerPoints are big. And sadly, this is what happened. You know, it's like, yes, it gave us a taste of alternative, but we didn't stay with the alternative. You know, a lot of teachers go back to I would say the bad habits that they had before. So the looking at the technology, it didn't stay long.
Yes. And you know, honestly, I feel like, you know, change takes time. And at this point, like my co-founder and I, with our community, we just want to be that safe space for if they do decide to homeschool, then at least they'll know that they have a community that can help them make that transition. And you know, and if they decide, because I've had several families that they started homeschooling, but then when they realized it wasn't for them, they went back to the traditional school, and we were there for them just the same, you know, because it really comes down to what's best for the child. And right now, I know that as a tutor and that owns a tutoring company, I get to see those parts, you know, of the child struggle with different parts of their lesson. But I also see that when they go back to the traditional school, if that's what they need, then that's what they need. And I just want to be there to support them in that as well. You know, it really always comes down to what's best for the child, no matter how hard it is right now. Hopefully it'll get easier for the teachers and for the parents and for the child sooner than later. That's my prayer. Because you know, it's hard out there in those educational streets.
Yeah, it is very, very true. What you say is very, very true. And I wish the traditional education look at it in terms of, okay, instead of the, you know, always attaching the label, oh, well, it should be seen as this child think and act and learn differently. So therefore we need to celebrate those differences instead of putting it on a label and it becomes a negative attachment.
Yes,
you know, that's one of the things that I really, you know, it really frustrates me as a teacher.
I understand.
It does. Right. The next question is, do you follow a curriculum or you follow what the child needs? I remember you saying you follow aspect of what the child needs, but do you follow a curriculum at all?
Yes, actually, you know, when I was first starting homeschool, we had been told, my husband and I, that you need the core subjects, math, reading, and writing, and everything else is kind of like the sprinkles on top. And so, yes, we have math, we have reading, we have writing, and that takes different form as they get older. You know, my son does a lot more online curriculum, but we still have workbooks here or there. We sprinkle in board games to help, really help with understanding. Like my daughter, she loves herbs. So we found out from another homeschooler about a game called Wildcraft. And so it teaches you how to use different herbs to heal yourself. And it's a family board game. We have friends of ours that own businesses that they offer financial literacy classes for children. So we sprinkle that in. Social studies, we have Black history, as well as, American history and world history classes that we have through a curriculum. It's both online and, textbook. So I really just, again, my son, he's finishing up coding camp. I really just look for what's the best for my children at the stage that they're in. I go on YouTube, I ask questions in Facebook, curriculum sites, and we just kind of go from there. Every year it changes, I'm doing more workbooks this year because my business keeps me on the go. So my children are also learning about how an entrepreneur's life is. And so as I take them with me, the workbooks work better for me so that they can do their work and I'm not having to try to keep up with papers here and everywhere like that. And that's how my life is going to look this next couple of years as I'm stabilizing my business or whatnot. So, it really, every homeschool family life is different. So one person may work full time, but they can't teach their kids till the evening when they get back at 5, and then they start their curriculum then. So it just depends on your family dynamic.
Thank you. Can you take us through a typical day in the life of your family?
Yes. So my children have always been early birds. And so we typically are waking up in early morning, 5, 6. My husband, he works full time with economic development. So, he's off and going to work early in the morning. Once we wake up, we start class on a good day around 9 o'clock in the morning. Okay. And we go through the day, we do Bible, we do, depending on the day, because I have it like scheduled out, like, so on a Monday we'll do science, but on a Wednesday we'll do social studies or history. But every day is Bible, every day is math, and they break up since they're different ages. I have my son go in his room, my daughter go in her room, and my baby girl, she stays with me because she's younger. So we're still at that level where she needs me a little more. But the older they get, the less they need of me. My son, he basically can teach himself. Mm-hmm. My daughter, she's in between. Mm-hmm. And they do, then we take a break if it's a break for a field trip that day. We'll go do that, and then we'll come back and we'll pick up where we left off, make lunch, and then, finish up our school day. We're typically finished, and they'll have some writing and a reading time. The reading that I like to do is I let them go to the library and pick out the books that they want. And my husband, he has, his request is that they read a classic book and then a fun book. So they have to go back and forth so that they get the classic learning as well as the fun learning. But that's their reading, and I ask them to tell me about it. So there's their comprehension. This is just part of our life. So it doesn't matter what day it really is. Monday through Thursday, we'll do a typical school week. But Friday is when we have our enrichment classes or a fun day where we go on a play date with our community. And then that is our life. We're typically done with school around 12 o'clock. And if we had nowhere to go, we're pretty much done around 11 o'clock. And then after 4 o'clock, we go into extracurricular stuff. So our life is full, and they have not complained so far. Uh-oh, I can't hear you.
Oh, right. Yes. Oh, that's fantastic. So by 12 o'clock you finish, and then the rest of the afternoon is outing time.
Yes, either some kind of extracurricular activity that they're doing. They play sports and or some kind of thing that we have to do for the family.
Oh, wow. That's brilliant, though, because you are actually teaching according to how the brain operates, right? Because yes, teaching all day is a no-no. By the time the children come in the afternoon, you've lost them. The brain's tired.
Yeah. And then I usually have to go to work by, 5 o'clock or whatnot, for tutoring. So it's a full day. But that is our life.
Exactly, because teaching according to the needs of the child, which is fantastic. Thank you very much. Finally, if there's someone out there who wants to home educate the child, but feeling apprehensive about it, not too sure where to start, think that they're not good enough, think that they're not really qualified to teach their children, etc., what 3 or 4 tips would you actually give this person, please?
Okay. Number 1, you can do it. Okay. Number 1, you can do it. Number 2, you're not alone. Okay. You're not alone. Number 3, I would say just get started. Just get started and see where it leads you. And number 4, I would say enjoy learning about your children, because that's what it's all about. Homeschooling is really learning about your children and learning how to help them the best way you know how. There's no perfect way, because you're actually intentionally learning about your children. So number 1, you could do it. Number 2, you're not alone. Number 3, just get started. And number 4, enjoy learning your child. Enjoy learning about your children and then help them. That's it.
Thank you. What I like is, you could do it, because a lot of people feel they cannot do it. So it's like this little push and reassurance that, of course you could do it, because you know your child more than anyone else. So why are you doubting yourself? So that's some of the things that a lot of parents missed, because they're forgetting that their children are theirs and they know their children more than anyone else. But because they've been so programmed to send the children off to us, they forget that they're the primary socialization in the child's life. So it's fantastic you're saying that. Is there anything else you want to say to us before we say goodbye to our Facebook audience?
Again, thank you so much for inviting me. And if people have specific questions that they would like, they can go to my Instagram page or my Facebook page, Neighbor, like I am your neighbor, Foundations with an S. So Neighbor Foundations, and they can sign up to get consultation from me. And I could also tell them more about our community as well, so they can look for that in their own city if they're not here in Alabama. But yeah, so I appreciate it. This is very cool. This is very relaxing. I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much for accepting the offer, for coming on, and I really appreciate that. And if you have any home schoolers who want to come and share their journey, send them our way so that we could actually, that they could actually come and share their journeys, and we know everybody's journey is very different. It's like I had a teacher who actually had several teachers who homeschool their children, and they were still locked into the traditional way, and they had to de-school themselves in order to start teaching.
That's a whole nother segment. That's a whole other segment.
So probably I need to have a section on that, right? The de-schooling setup in terms of before you actually do it.
Yes, I'm going to send you my co-founder of my community. She would be great to talk to you about that. So I'll send her your way.
Oh, that's brilliant. So which means we could actually talk about, de-schooling, because a lot of the teachers had to de-school before they actually start teaching their children, because they realized that they were actually using the same technique that they were running away from. So it didn't make no sense.
Yes.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, Facebook audience. Thank you. Wishing you guys a fantastic day, morning, night, where you are. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Don't forget, tomorrow we have the Female Educators Roundtable, where I'll be talking to an educator from around the world, sharing what it's like going back to school after COVID. Is business as usual. We are not on the platform because they forget that we had, a traumatic experience that have gone by the wayside. It's like, get on with it. Forget that there were pandemic. Life is back to normal. So we'll be talking to an educator, female, who will be sharing that journey with us tomorrow. Anyway, take care, guys.